Hello, dear friends. It looked yesterday as if the global economy was about to crunch with the bursting of the Chinese real estate bubble. But the Chinese government is not willing to let it get any bigger. Opinion piece. China stops the crash. Chinese government comes to the rescue. Won't let the bubble burst. Won't allow Evergrande to go bankrupt. They will replace the management and inject money into the company. Will try to prevent the giant's insolvency. China puts pressure on the most pessimistic bloggers. They don't want a repeat of Lehman Brothers. Beijing is taking down its big digital giants. Amazon bans the sale of 600 Chinese brands. Europe faces an energy crisis this winter, but Russia has gas reserves for more than 100 years. Ford wakes up badly burnt from his dream in India. Gold price could double in coming years. Hundreds more migrants head to Texas border. Russia and China seek to tap Afghanistan's resources. California's giant Sequoias threatened by fire. World food prices rise to 1970 levels. Chiristine Lagarde says cryptocurrencies are not money. Paris clash with Australia sparks diplomatic seismic shift. US develops sonic weapon that turns enemy mute. US Army's flying motorcycle completes its first flight. Africa is the third fastest growing crypto economy. Let's start. China will not allow the real estate bubble to burst with the bankruptcy of Evergrande Group, as it did with Lehman Brothers, and will not allow the Chinese economy to explode or affect the world economy. They will replace the management of the company, but it will be restructured and injected with money to get it back on its feet. The large demonstrations taking place in China could influence any rescue decision by the government, which places a high priority on social stability. Internal crisis. The liquidity crisis that hit Chinese real estate giant Evergrande Group is giving rise to concerns about the beginning of the bursting of a real estate bubble in China that could translate into repercussions for the country's entire financial system. Amid fears of a possible bankruptcy of the company, Evergrande shares have fallen almost 80%, taking $20 billion off the market value so far this year, including 12% this Tuesday alone, with the price reaching a 6-year low. The Shanghai Stock Exchange closed the sale of the firm's bonds amid huge swings in their price. The Hong Kong-listed company is China's most indebted real estate firm. It has liabilities totaling more than $300 billion, involving more than 250 banks and non-banks, after years of borrowing to finance rapid growth. In the first day of this month, some of its creditors demanded the immediate repayment of the money. Multiple investors railed outside the company's Shenzhen headquarters on Monday to demand repayment of their loans to Evergrande. Global impact. Evergrande's bankruptcy could have a major impact on the economy. Some analysts are warning of a possible Lehman Brothers-like moment in China, with real estate giant Evergrande on the verge of bankruptcy. According to reports, the developer racked up $300 billion in debt. It warns investors that it could default on that debt and there is consent that the collapse would have a ripple effect far beyond China. It's $300 billion in all kinds of liabilities for people who deposit in apartments that haven't been built yet or that are half finished. And then, of course, there are all kinds of suppliers to the company. So it should have a big impact on the economy, and it may have more regional implications than global. There may be other countries that are exposed to that kind of default situation. Evergrande to allow angry investors to bid on discounted properties. China Evergrande Group plans to allow consumers and staff to bid on discounted properties this month to repay them billions in overdue investment products. As the beleaguered developer seeks to conserve cash, the company will host an online property event before September 30 for investors opting for discounted real estate instead of cash. Evergrande executives swapped investment products before bankruptcy. 6 executives of China's heavily indebted Evergrande had swapped some of the company's investment products in advance earlier this year, the real estate group said Saturday. China Park. China starts blocking financial websites and putting pressure on bloggers who analyze markets. Regulators are reportedly taking special coercive measures against market skeptics and pessimistic views on China's financial system. China launched a special crackdown campaign and, with regulators, are reportedly taking steps against market skeptics and pessimistic views about China's financial system, false data and fraud issued by currency reporting firms, according to the Financial Times. Beijing is tearing down its digital giants this week. China is serious about destroying the walled gardens that its internet giants have formed over decades. China's internet is isolated with a handful of super apps, each occupying a comfortable protective territory that attempts to lock users in and keep rivals out. Ensuring no more access to legal URL is the basic requirement for the development of the internet, said a senior Chinese official. He added that unjustified web link block affect users' experience, undermine users' rights, and disrupt market orders. China News. Shanghai encourages duty-free economy as part of consumer drive. The Shanghai government will support companies that apply for approval to sell duty-free products and encourage the installation of duty-free stores at airports, hotels, shopping malls, and other mercantile venues. World Bank in China manipulation scandal rattles investors. Some investors and activists expressed dismay Friday over revelations that World Bank leaders pressured staff to improve China's score in an influential report that ranks countries on how easy it is to do business there. They also said the World Bank's subsequent discontinuation of the annual Doing Business report series could make it harder for investors to assess where to put their money. China seeks to circumvent growing military belligerence through its economic clout. Just days after the shocking US announcement that it was providing nuclear submarines to Australia, Beijing's response has been to ask to join a US-created Pacific region trade bloc. China begins military exercises after destroyer passes near Taiwan. The Chinese armed forces began military exercises near Taiwan after the destroyer USS Bowery passed through the Taiwan Strait on September 17th. Amazon bans more than 600 Chinese brands. The internet giant has banned more than 600 Chinese brands spread across 3,000 select accounts over incidents of review fraud. USA. Hundreds more migrants head for Texas border. More than 10,000 migrants, mostly Haitians, stayed in a squalid encampment under a bridge in South Texas on Friday, September 17th, as 100 more hit for the border. Authorities speed up Haitian removal. U.S. authorities moved about 2,000 people to other immigration processing stations Friday from a Texas border town that has seen an influx of Haitians and other migrants. Capitol Police deploy civil disturbance unit to separate rival protesters. Organized by the group Look Ahead America, participants in the demonstration aimed to draw public attention and support for some 600 people charged with crimes in connection with the January 6th events at the Capitol. The Justice for G6 demonstration is taking place in Washington, D.C. Activists are demanding justice for hundreds of rioters charged in connection with the assault on the Capitol on January 6th. The Department of Homeland Security expects about 700 people to show up for the rally near the Capitol building. Rumor has it that members of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers groups will attend the event. 3 counter demonstrations are scheduled to take place on the same day in Washington, but officials have put plans in place to keep the groups separate from the Justice for J6 rally. Economy. Food prices rise globally to 1970 levels. The media are sounding the alarm about rising global food inflation. In 2021, prices increased by 33% compared to last year. The rise in prices is due to increased logistics costs and the problem resulting from the crisis, among other factors. Fed's uncertain timetable to reduce stimulus. The Federal Reserve is expected to open the door next week to tapering its monthly bond purchases, while tying any real change to employment and growth in September and beyond. Government to regulate cryptocurrencies. Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Gary Gensler assured the Senate that the regulator is working overtime to create a set of rules to take control of volatile cryptocurrency markets. Democrats and Republicans are united in their stance that the government must act to protect investors. The price of gold could double. One hedge fund manager who predicted metal rose to an all-time high of $2,000 an ounce last summer is confident that the price could climb from $3,000 to $5,000 an ounce in the next 3 to 5 years, with the yellow metal near $1,750 after a drop of more than $40 on Thursday. Its biggest fall in 6 weeks. Now could be an opportune time to buy it. Many people rush for coal in tough times. The shiny metal tends to hold up well during stock market crashes and periods of high inflation. The next decade is expected to see runaway inflation that central banks wouldn't be able to control. Central bank money printing doesn't solve the problems, but rather delays the problem. Gold will benefit only by the fact that it is a physical asset that cannot be printed. Ford wakes up badly bent from its Indian dream. Ford's withdrawal marks the end of an Indian dream for automakers. It also follows its exit from Brazil announced in January, reflecting an industry shift from emerging markets to what is now seen as a decisive investment in electric vehicles. Analysts and executives said foreigners misjudged India's potential and underestimated the complexities of operating in sprawling countries that rewards domestic purchases. Many failed to adapt to the preference for small, cheap, fuel-efficient cars that could stumble over bumpy roads without costly repairs. In India, 95 of cars are priced below $20,000. Lower taxes on small cars also made it difficult for larger car makers to compete with small car specialists such as Japan's Suzuki majority shareholder of Maruti Suzuki India Limited, India's largest car maker. Europe faces winter energy crisis. Europe is bracing for a harsh winter as an energy crisis, years in the making, leaves the continent dependent on the vagaries of the weather. Faced with rising gas and electricity prices, countries from the UK to Germany will have to rely on mild temperatures to get them through the heating season. Europe is short of gas and coal, and if the wind doesn't blow, widespread blackouts could develop, forcing businesses and factories to shut down. Russia has got gas reserves for more than a century. Russia's natural gas reserve will last more than a century. Alexei Miller, chairman of the board of gas giant Gazprom, said Friday, gas reserves in Russia, Gazprom's gas reserves, are the largest in the world, and there will be no problem with the reserves for the next 100 years. Pentagon warns Europe that Russia would be a bigger threat than China. Russia could be the source of greater security challenges for the US and Europe in the near term than China, Deputy Defense Secretary Colin Kahl said. US disregard from the European Union revives the dream of a European army. Josep Borrell wants to create a European army after the hasty withdrawal from Afghanistan. The argument is that the European Union should be able to intervene to protect its interests when the Americans do not want to get involved in an operation. Borrell's proposals speaks of 5,000 soldiers, it is to say the equivalent of a brigade. Economy. Lagarde says cryptocurrencies are not money. Chiristine Lagarde, president of the ECB, has come out against cryptocurrencies, saying in an interview with Bloomberg that they are not currencies, and added, in quotes again, cryptocurrencies are highly speculative assets that possibly claim their claim to fame as currency, but they are not. Bitcoin billionaire Tyler Winklevoss agreed with Lagarde in the sense that the state does not issue cryptos. Towards a digital euro. Meanwhile, the ECB is currently in the process of developing its own digital euro. The ECB is launching a 2-year research phase in which it will weigh the potential features of a digital euro, as well as the impact on the economy and the financial markets. Lagarde wants to give consumers the option of paying in a digital currency that does doesn't jeopardize the entire banking system, she said. Tax evasion by large companies, a plague in Spain. Spain has doubled the number of super rich in a decade, while the middle class is getting poorer. The situation is worsened by tax evasion by multinational companies. 22 large Spanish companies paid only 1.3% profit tax worldwide in 2017. PayPal allows UK customers to buy, hold, and sell cryptocurrencies. International payment gateway PayPal announced Friday that its UK customers can now buy, hold, and sell cryptocurrencies. Energy crisis spreads to UK food supply chain. British meat processors have become the latest victim of a growing energy crisis that threatens to cause a shortage of carbon dioxide, which is widely used in the food and drink industry. CO2 is a byproduct of fertilizer production that is used to stun animals before slaughter, as well as for the packaging process that extends the shelf life of all meat, and in soft drinks and beer. France. Paris clash with Australia after submarine supply termination unleashes diplomatic earthquake. It is not only a blow to the French shipbuilding industry, but also a blow to Paris' ambitions, as the French saw Canberra as the key ally. If they continue to press Europe on the China issue, France could again withdraw from NATO. Australia made mistake in cancelling submarine deal. French envoy says Australia has made a diplomatic mistake in ditching an order for French submarines in favor of an alternative deal with the US and Britain. France's envoy to Canberra said Saturday. France works with India to promote multilateral order. France's foreign minister agreed with his Indian counterpart to work on a program to promote a truly multilateral international order. China could share nuclear submarines with Pakistan. China is using Pakistan's port. They have also given submarines to the Bangladesh Navy. The Indian Navy is keeping an eye on what is happening in these countries. China is also making independently propelled boats for Pakistan. Afghanistan. The CIA warned that there were civilians seconds before the bombing in Kabul. The CIA warned of the possible presence of civilians, including minors, minutes before a bombing in Kabul on August 29, where 10 people were killed by mistake. This was stated by the CNN television network, citing 3 sources with knowledge of the matter. Afghanistan's Human Rights Commission says it cannot work due to Taliban interference. The Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission announced Saturday that the Taliban had taken over its offices and were interfering with its work. 2 explosions hit Kabul. 2 explosions hit Afghanistan's capital. One of them left several people injured. Car bomb blast in Jalalabad. At least 3 people were killed and 18 others were injured as a result of a car bomb explosion in the eastern Afghan city of Jalalabad in Nangarhar province. Russia and China seek to tap Afghanistan's resources. Afghanistan has $1 trillion worth of minerals in reserves, including copper, iron, lithium, and rare earths. Russia is clearly interested in a consolidated Afghanistan under a stable government. NBC News quotes Fyodor Lukyanov, a leading expert. China sees an opportunity to exploit potential lucrative oil, gas and mining projects that have been wiped out or delayed by security concerns, lack of infrastructure and technical problems. Beijing recently said it would provide the Taliban with $31 million in emergency aid, including food. Daesh claims responsibility for attack on Syrian gas pipeline. The Islamic State claimed responsibility for an attack on a gas pipeline at the Deir Ali power plant in Syria. Algeria's former President Bouteflika dies. Former Algerian President Abdelaziz Bouteflika died at 84. The presidency said Friday, more than 2 years after he resigned it after pressure from mass protests and the army. Africa is the third fastest growing crypto economy. Africa has experienced the highest adoption rates in the world in the areas of Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa and Tanzania. In a year in which the digital currency market grew by more than 1,200%. In addition, these countries also rank in the top 20 in the global cryptocurrency adoption rate. Curious. French slackliner captivates crowd with Eiffel Tower performance. Slackliner Nathan Paulin drew applause from a crowd in Paris when he completed a 600-meter crossing Saturday from the Eiffel Tower to the other side of the Seine River. Rolls-Royce successfully completes test flight on its first electric aircraft. Rolls-Royce has completed the initial test flight of its first all-electric aircraft called the Spirit of Innovation. Army's flying motorcycle completes first flight. Speeder is the name of a flying motorcycle shaped like a jet ski, which recently completed its first successful test flight. It weighs only 104 kilograms and can carry a pilot weighing up to 108 kilograms. It reaches 240 kilometers per hour at an altitude of 4,500 meters. This flying motorcycle was developed by the US company Inject Aviation, based in Los Angeles. The purpose of this aircraft will be both military and civilian. Navy develops sonic weapon that renders its target unable to speak. The US Navy is currently developing an all-lethal weapon that uses a target's own voice against them, rendering them unable to speak. Called the Acoustic Hailing and Disruption System, the handheld device records a target's voice using a long-range microphone. It then amplifies and plays it back in two separate tracks, one nearly simultaneous with the original speaker, and one with slight delay of a few hundred milliseconds. It then focuses these tracks on the target using a phenomenon called delayed auditory feedback. Dogs are programmed to communicate with people even at birth. Studies show that puppies can reciprocate human eye contact and follow gestures to locate food. A handful of recent studies offer surprising insights into the ways our canine companions are programmed to communicate with us. Mass bird deaths in New York City. A volunteer collected hundreds of bird carcasses that had crashed through windows in less than 3 hours. California's giant sequoias threatened by fire. California fires are now threatening a natural treasure, the massive 1,000-year-old sequoias. The fire has entered the groves in which more than 2,000 of these giants, which can exceed 100 meters in height, grow, protecting the world's largest tree. Fire crews in California have resorted to wrapping the base of some giant sequoias in fire-resistant covering in a desperate effort to save the towering specimens, including the so-called General Sherman, the world's largest tree. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.